A soldier hands him something to bite down to prepare him for the punishment coming. But when the signal comes, they strike him repeatedly while the commanders and the others watch. As the blows keep coming, he catches the stick and fights back. Despite being outnumbered, he knocks most of the soldiers unconscious and locks the last one in a chokehold. A British commander named Wright drags himself onto the Japanese seashore and hides himself. The next day, Japanese troops scout the woods, searching for any surviving enemies. Hidden among the trees, Wright quietly prepares his weapon and watches their movements. The soldiers notice a landmine, and while their attention is focused on the mine, he uses the moment to close the distance between them. He bursts out from his hiding spot and attacks a soldier. Using the soldier's body as cover, he distracts the second soldier and strikes him down as well. He then finishes him off with a landmine. The explosion alerts other troops nearby, forcing him to flee deeper into the forest. He runs until more soldiers catch up and surround him. Their leader orders him to drop his weapon and kneel. After a brief hesitation, he complies and lowers himself to the ground, expecting to be executed. Instead, the leader spares him and orders his men to take him back to camp as a prisoner. Wright is brought to the Japanese camp, where he is presented to the camp commander, Ito, who orders that he be taken into the woods and executed. A soldier escorts him away and instructs him to kneel. He obeys, but at the final moment, he evades the executioner's sword, shoves him off balance, and kicks him to the ground. He quickly overpowers another soldier, frees himself, and attacks the rest. As more soldiers approach him, he escapes back into the woods. He comes across a glider, but quickly realizes it is unusable, so he continues fleeing until he steps into a trap. Immobilized, he is captured once again and dragged back to camp. The soldiers report Wright's escape attempt to Ito, and rather than reacting with anger, the commander appears intrigued. He approaches him and snatches a badge from his belt, examining it closely. After a short exchange, he orders that Wright be allowed to sleep and prepare for his execution the following day. That night, some American war prisoners secretly approach Wright in a shed to introduce themselves and ask about his background. Wright explains that his unit was sent on a support mission to reinforce the Allies' final stand, but faulty intel led them straight into an ambush. He adds that most of his team was wiped out, and he barely escaped before being swept ashore. Gabriel, one of the prisoners, asks if Wright's survival means British forces are coming to rescue them. Wright admits they are not, because his unit is presumed dead. Gabriel then mentions that even as prisoners, they still respect each other's military ranks and offers to introduce him to Captain Collins, the highest-ranking officer among them, the next day. When Wright points out that Ito has already ordered his execution and that escaping is his only chance to survive, Johnsey, another prisoner, explains that escaping isn't the hard part, staying alive afterward is. He says it's safer to stay in March camp. When Wright asks what that means, Beardy, the third prisoner, explains that the prisoner is strong enough to work stay in camp, while the process of sending the rest to another camp is called the Death March. When Wright asks what awaits them at the second camp, Gabriel responds that most prisoners die before reaching it, and that remaining in the current camp is considered the best chance at survival. The next day, Wright wakes to the sound of soldiers training outside. Beardy explains that Ito sometimes brings misbehaving prisoners onto the training ground so his men can make examples out of them. Moments later, Wright finds himself on his knees in the training ring. Ito orders a soldier to step forward, but instead of attacking, the soldier frees him and pulls him to his feet, awaiting further instructions. Ito has Wright removed from the ring to make space for 3 other prisoners. He then announces that they were caught stealing food and must be punished. On Ito's signal, a warrior steps into the ring, waiting for the prisoners to attack first. One prisoner rushes him and is immediately struck down. The remaining 2 attack together, but are also defeated. Ito orders the warrior to fight to the death in the next round, and Wright is pushed back into the ring. He lands the first kick, sending the warrior to the ground. As the warrior struggles to get back on his feet, Wright uses a forbidden technique to finish him off, a move that visibly amuses Ito. Captain Endo, the second in command, protests that Wright should be executed immediately. The commander dismisses his protest, pointing out that Wright knows more than he should, and his death will come to him eventually. Gabriel escorts Wright to meet Captain Collins. Collins congratulates him on surviving the fight and brings him into his prison shed. While Wright is telling the Americans about the countries he's trained in, the soldiers interrupt to summon him to Ito's office. Ito questions him about the forbidden technique he used in the ring and demands to know who taught him. He refuses to answer, so Ito responds by promising to execute him the following day. The next day, Wright is escorted back into the training ring to fight 3 soldiers. Once the signal is given, he engages them. He knocks out 2 soldiers and places the last one in a chokehold. At the final moment, he releases him instead of murdering him. While the prisoners are in the shed talking, Ito orders the execution of the defeated soldiers. Gabriel and Collins pull Wright aside to discuss an escape plan. When Wright suggests stealing the camp radio to contact Allied forces, the others agree to help him. While the prisoners are working, the Americans create a disturbance to draw attention away from the camp tower. Wright sneaks inside to steal the radio. On his way back, a nurse notices him. A soldier approaches to harass her, but she remains quiet. When the soldier leaves, the nurse asks Wright if he has come to save them. When he tells her he's trying to save everyone, she agrees not to report him. Beardy warns Wright that the soldiers will soon realize the radio is missing and torture the prisoners for it, but he reassures him they won't. He then asks Beardy to monitor radio transmissions and record anything he hears. Ito announces that some prisoners were caught entering restricted areas the previous night. He orders his men to drag the culprit and manipulates him into naming his accomplice. Instead of sparing the culprit, Ito orders them both executed. Wright and Beardy ask Jauncey how the executed prisoners previously escaped the camp. After learning the route they took, Wright sneaks out that night. Unknowingly to him, a soldier arrives at the shed to perform a routine head count. The soldier notices Wright's absence, but chooses not to report it. Wright finds a location far enough away to safely communicate with the radio without the Japanese intercepting the signal. While returning to camp, he comes across the glider again and realizes it lacks a motor. He informs Gabriel that he intercepted Navajo transmissions, meaning American forces are nearby. He also explains that the glider he found could be used to aid their escape. Wright is called to Ito's office. When Ito questions him about Navajo, he responds that he knows the Americans use it as a coded language, but he does not understand it. Ito offers him special treatment if he identifies American prisoners who can translate Navajo, but he refuses, stating that none of the Americans would cooperate. Ito attempts to intimidate him, but he remains firm. Enraged, Ito orders him removed from the office. Afterward, he slams his fist on the table. When Endo asks why he's keeping Wright alive, he rambles about not needing to understand Navajo to know that the Allied forces are coming for him. Ito orders his men to beat Wright up. They beat him for a while and released him later. One soldier stays behind to continue flogging him until he grabs the cane, pushes the soldier away, and uses it to knock several others unconscious. When he places the final soldier in chokehold, he looks at Ito and releases the soldier. Endo furiously strikes Wright down and asks Ito to punish him. Ito ignores his request and instead guns down several prisoners to instill fear throughout the camp. Wright later wakes in the infirmary, while the nurse from the tower is tending to his wounds. She tells him he's been unconscious for 2 days and that it is unusual for Ito to allow a prisoner medical care. When she introduces herself as Teresa, he asks if she is also a prisoner. She explains that she was taken from her parents and forced to work as a nurse for the Japanese soldiers. When he asks if she knows anything that could help them escape, Teresa responds that Ito will never let her leave alive. He leans in to tell her something, but a soldier interrupts them. Ito visits the infirmary and demands that Wright teach his soldiers the forbidden technique. When he refuses, Ito then threatens that when the Allied forces attack the camp, he will ensure that no prisoners survive. Wright returned to the prisoner's shed. He learns that American forces had scattered printed warnings, alerting the Japanese that an attack was coming. He then reveals Ito's intention to execute all prisoners once the Allied forces arrive. Wright and Gabriel sneak back into camp from the woods. On their return, they encounter the soldier who helped Wright and threaten him into cooperating with them. As they make their way back toward the shed, they see Collins holding a dead Japanese soldier. Collins signals for them to ignore him and continue moving. Japanese soldiers burst into the shed to conduct another head count. They confirm all prisoners are present and leave without further incident. Collins is dragged into the training ring. Ito announces that some guards were attacked the previous night and demands that Collins' accomplices identify themselves. Wright tries to claim responsibility for the attacks, but Ito counters that Collins was caught in the act. He then orders another prisoner be brought forward and threatens to execute him unless Wright agrees to teach them the forbidden technique. When he refuses, Endo shoots the prisoner. Shortly after, Ito orders his soldiers to take down Collins, but Collins fights back and manages to hold them off. When the fight escalates, he orders his other soldiers to break it off. Wright challenges Ito to a one-on-one fight, but he refuses and instead orders his men to restrain him while he punches him. He then allows Endo to have him dragged away. Wright and Gabriel sneak out again to use the radio to contact the American forces. When they return to the shed, soldiers storm in and arrest them. They wake later to the sound of a crash. As they struggle to break free, Teresa and her companion rush in to cut them loose. Teresa explains that Ito has gone mad and has begun executing prisoners throughout the camp. Teresa shows Wright a signal flare, prompting him to say they need to retrieve the radio and gather the remaining prisoners. Together, they all sneak out of the shed while avoiding Japanese soldiers engaged elsewhere. When they reach the radio location, Wright discovers it has been destroyed, so he leads the group toward the tower to get another radio. Teresa insists on clearing the area ahead, so while she and her sister take down a soldier, Wright and Gabriel sneak into the tower. As Gabriel radios American forces, Wright fires on Japanese soldiers. The prisoners take advantage of the situation to overpower the camp forces. During the outrage, Endo confronts Gabriel, but Collins intervenes and fights him instead. As Collins is about to finish Endo, he is shot. Wright breaks away from the chaos and enters Ito's office, challenging him to single combat again. This time, Ito accepts and throws him a sword. The two engage in a sword fight. Wright eventually gains the advantage, but Gabriel pulls him away before he can finish Ito. As Wright and the others flee into the woods, Ito stops a soldier from shooting at them, allowing them to escape. The escapees locate the glider. They prepare it for launch and signal American forces to mark their position. As the Japanese soldiers approach them, the American troops open fire and instruct the escapees to brace for impact. Before they know it, the glider is picked up. After a rough start, it stabilizes and flies safely. As the remaining prisoners are led back into the camp, Wright promises to come back for them. Years later, he returns to Japan. He meets Ito's son, who informs him that Ito died years earlier. Ito's son asks him to demonstrate the forbidden technique. Although Wright agrees, he fights him without using the technique. As he walks away, Ito's son again asks to see the forbidden move, and this time, Wright shows it to him. In return, Ito's son gives him the badge his father once took from him. Wright bows and leaves while Ito's son remains behind, looking at his father's portrait. Wright and his unwavering determination makes an escape mission that seemed impossible possible. Seeing as he escaped with a few prisoners and promised to come back for the others, do you think he fulfilled that promise? Let me know your response in the comment section. Until next time, guys, peace out.